Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Stephen with you with this week's Devar Torah, our 10-minute Torah for Parashat Beshalach. You know, it's interesting, not wearing a tie today. There's different styles. Some people like to wear ties, some people don't. I kind of go back and forth myself. I'm seeing a lot of people not wearing ties, like on some of the newscasts on the TV, et cetera, et cetera. So I just thought I'd dress a little different for you this week. Also wanted to show you, I'm wearing my jacket to kind of, be a little formal without the tie, but I wanted you to see my pins. This, of course, is the United States and the Israel pin. And this is the blue square, Stand Up to Hate for Jewish Hate. So I read a very interesting opinion post in the Jerusalem Post, Times of Israel. Typically when I look at news, I every now and then I'll look at some of the news channels on TV, on cable, understanding that you get a little bit of news, you get a lot of commentary, and there seems to be an agenda. I know a lot of people feel a little more strongly about it than I do, and that's okay. Whatever works for you. For me, I also will tell you I do not belong to a political party, nor will I at this point. And one of the reasons is because I know that my congregation and the people and the Jews that I associate with, it's not just my congregation, but I work with my fellow Jews throughout, the Inland Empire, Southern California. I was just visiting somebody who's not an active member of my congregation, but somebody I've known for many years who is, dealing with some health issues. And so, I need to be neutral, and I am neutral. You ask what party I am, it's the party R, not the reality party. I like to see what's going on. So a lot of times I'll go to a site like Google News or something where you get a whole smattering of various sources, and you can look through the sources. And one of the reasons I do that, of course, is because of the news of Israel. We know that a lot of the media outlets are unfortunately bent against Israel. They see the Palestinians as hopeless victims, and quite frankly, a lot of them are. But what they don't seem to realize is that the reason this conflict started is because Hamas, a terrorist organization, recognized as a terrorist organization by the majority of countries in the West, attacked Israel unprovoked. And what they did to innocent people is absolutely horrendous. So I like to see what other people are saying, even though I look at sources where I know I'm going to get reality. Now, having said that, again, read a very interesting opinion post by a gentleman from, Scotland. And he says that there's not a lot of Jewish pride out there. I'm going to post that question and leave it up to you, leave it open-ended. You can think about that. I will tell you what I think. I know that one of the forces that I try to go with when I'm interacting with people at the synagogue, either in prayer services or classes or some type of instruction or just interaction, is that I personally am very proud of being Jewish. I love being Jewish. That's why I became a rabbi. I just love Torah. I love Talmud. It can be some kind of dry sometimes, but I love it anyway. I love the Kabbalah, which I started exploring recently. So I just think it's the greatest thing ever. I really do. Not to the exclusion of others. Of course, we want to be tolerant, and I am tolerant. Love the stranger as yourself, of course. But, we have a lot of things to be proud of. We really do. This week's portion, let's go into that, Beshalach, where Moses leads the children of Israel from slavery out into freedom. And the first one of the things that happens is that Pharaoh, again, has another change of heart. God hardens Pharaoh's heart. And let me reiterate what Rabbi Hertz says in the Hertz Chumash, in his commentary. God did not prevent him from making a choice. Now, some of you may take issue with that and say, well, if God hardened his heart, Of course, he's going to make the wrong choice. Well, one of the things that the sages have talked about is that they value someone's dedication to Judaism who grows up in a household that really didn't have it, or have parents that weren't really that dedicated to it, rather than somebody that was brought up where it was just consistent and we did the holidays, so because the odds are against them. Just like there are people, and we read about them, our heroes, that turn their lives around, coming up from, horrendous or conditions, and they make something of themselves. Look at Moses. Okay, Moses grew up, spent his early years in the luxury of Egyptian royalty. Then he had to leave, right? He was seen taking the life of a taskmaster who was beating to death an Israelite worker. He had a fear for his life because the Egyptians were his people were after him. His Egyptian people were after him, and he spent a good part of his life as a lowly shepherd. Now here he is coming back. He's learned humility, right? He's learned to respect people, and that's why probably one of the reasons God chose him. He had that perfect background. People of Israel, the Israelites, are now leaving Egypt. They come up against the Sea of Reeds. The Egyptian special forces, led by Pharaoh himself, is out to get them and bring them back. And of course, they're worried. They didn't know hope. 120 years they lived in slavery. They did not know hope. And Moses says, God will take care of it. Raises his staff. The Midrash says that Nachshon ben Aminadab, the prince of the tribe of Judah, walked into the Red Sea, and as soon as it got up to his chest or his neck, or I've heard different parts of his body where it got up to, sea split, ground hardened, and they were able to walk across. Pharaoh, of course, with his chariots, pursued after them, after God stayed them with the pillar of cloud, pillar of fire. Some people think it was just one pillar that did both. Other people say, well, there were two. So love comments. See, that's one of the things I love about Judaism. You always get these two different opinions. People tell me when we're having our Torah study Monday, I don't know if this is right. It's as right as anybody else, really. So let's have it, right? So leads them through the Red Sea. The closes up, and of course the Egyptians perish, and everybody's singing and dancing on the seashore. And Miriam, with her timbrels, and the prophetess led the other woman, and this has been the subject of women's talitot, designs of women's talitot, and bags and different paintings. And the next thing you know, people are crying about water. So we got the bitter waters, and they're crying about food, and then we got the manna, and then they're crying about meat, the flesh pots, how great life was. It was like a all-you-can-eat buffet back in Egypt, right? How soon they forget. And one of the things that Rabbi Hertz makes a point of saying, part of the credibility of the Torah is the fact that we have no problem addressing these human failures, these human failings, let's say, this weakness of people. Now, today, we're a little bit more advanced in our psychological understanding of, human behavior, and we understand that these people had a slave mentality. It was almost a defeat. The odds were against them that they were going to go ahead and conquer Canaan and settle it. They just didn't have the character. For hundreds of years, it was like, I don't know if I want to say this is like the Stockholm syndrome, where hostages start to fall in love with their captors or something like that, or start to, depends on the treatment, of course. But that's part of it. We understand that now. And we understand that these people had been beaten in for multiple generations. They didn't know hope. They had this vague hope. Caleb and Joshua, or Hoshea, as he was known at that point, had hope. Some other people, Nachshon ben Aminadab, had hope. Aaron and Miriam had hope. The rest of the Israelites, they didn't. So Moses kind of had to start babysitting like they were children. At some points, he looks up at God and says, Hashem, and says, what am I going to do with these people? And Hashem comes to his rescue, and eventually, my joke is Hashem says, what is your people doing complaining? And Moses looks at him and said, when did they become my people? I thought they were yours. But that's really the reality of the situation. Our people had to go through another generation in order to have a hardy attitude, an attitude where they're like, yeah, let's go take they didn't know slavery. I've mentioned to people that this is the way I feel about the conflict in Gaza. You have people there that have been raised to hate Israel. It may take, and there's no doubt, there shouldn't be doubt in anybody's mind that Israel's going to win this and eliminate Hamas. And then what do you do with Palestine? Well, you're going to have a caretaker government, and I think it's going to be a couple of generations of good relations with Israel and the Western world, where people start to not hate Jews anymore. And unfortunately, we still have that in this country, but you know how that's going. So this is Rabbi Shmuel. Shabbat Shalom. Take pride in Judaism. Love who you are. I mean, we've got a beautiful history. Our religion says, honor the stranger. We're very humane. We always err on the side of giving people a break. That's who we are. So Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for listening.